I bought this drive back in March for $189, and today, as of filming on this video, is $289. And this is about to wreck every indie filmmaker's budget because it's not inflation, it's not a shortage you've heard about, it's something way worse that nobody in our industry is actually talking about. In this video, I'm going to show you what actually caused it, why it's about to wreck every indie filmmaker's budget, and the one strategy working directors have been using for 50 years to get around problems exactly like this. All right, let's talk about facts for a second. AI data centers, they require a lot of storage. I'm not lying there. It requires a massive amount of storage. And companies like Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron, these companies, they made a choice and they stopped making cards for our cameras and started making storage for AI servers. And those companies, they locked in contracts years in advance. And Morgan Stanley just reported that AI inference alone is going to consume 92% of the entire global NAND flash supply this year. Just put that in your mindset, 92%. It's just insane, right? That leaves 8% for everything else on this planet. Every phone, every laptop, every camera card, every SSD sitting in everyone's filmmaking kit, all of it is fighting for what is left. And honestly, the supply chain, they forgot that we existed. That's the way I put it. Sony suspended their entire SD and CF Express card lineup, and even Apple, the second largest company in the world, is sitting on 4 to 5 months shipping delays on all their computers, like the Mac Mini, the Mac Studio, the MacBook Pro, all because of this same shortage. Kioxia is one of the three biggest memory manufacturers in the world, right? Their managing director, and I apologize, I'm going to butcher that name, but his name is Shinzuki Nakato. He said in January that their entire 2026 production is already sold out. His exact words were that the era of the cheap 1 terabyte SSD is over. He expects actually the shortage to continue through 2027 at the minimum. And Morgan Stanley, their forecast matches that entire timeline to a T. So if you guys are new in this industry or wanting to get into this industry and looking at buying your new camera or a new multicam setup, I would think twice right now. And it's not because of the camera price, right? Because the camera price is always going to be the same, but the storage to actually shoot on it just wrecked your entire film budget. So here is what you can do right now. Rent your storage instead of buying it. I know it doesn't sound like a reasonable solution, but hear me out on this. I pulled the numbers from Lens Rentals myself this morning, and you can get a 2 terabyte Samsung T7 shielded for about $44 for 7 days. And that same drive, you would have to pay $499 on Amazon to own it. And they also have the Sony 128 gig Tough Series cards that rent for $46 for 7 days. Look, the reason why I say this is because rental houses already owned that inventory and they bought it before all the prices blew up. But what is very interesting about this whole thing is when I pulled those listings up this morning, some drives were already booked out until May and some other ones were booked out until June. So people already know about this and they're going to this route. And yes, that window is open right now, but it's not going to stay open forever. The real solution is figuring out how filmmakers survived back in the day and using those same strategies and applying them to what we are doing. This is not a new problem. Literally, both the indie world and Hollywood dealt with the same thing decades ago, only with analog or film and not digital storage. I want you guys to think of it this way. Film stock, it costs real money per foot. Like every take you rolled meant dollars spent on stock, processing, and printing that film stock. And directors, they could not afford to waste an inch of it, let alone a foot. So, what did they do? Well, let's think about this. Hitchcock shot only what he needed. He planned every shot before the camera rolled, so he never wasted a frame. And Roger Corman, he built the entire movie around the budget and shot so fast that some of the films were done in a week. And then we have John Ford, whose scripts were so tight that he made decisions before he stepped on set. So nothing was wasted once the crew was in place. But here's what I really want you guys to pay attention to, because this one hits closer to home for people like us. Robert Rodriguez, who is famous for making El Mariachi, he made it for what, $7,000? And he had no crew, a handheld camera, and he had local volunteers, and he did not have a studio behind him. He just out optimized the system. And then we got Spike Lee, who is famous for making She's Gotta Have It for $175,000 by shooting on location, using friends and family, and keeping the schedule brutally tight. And David Lynch, who shot Eraserhead over a 5-year span, he pieced together money where he could actually find it and made that film happen. And these filmmakers were not beating film stock costs by outspending anyone. They were out optimizing the system. And that is exactly what you can do right now. Okay? I get it. Storage cost is expensive. Everything is expensive right now. It's not going to get any better anytime soon, and AI is not going to go away. It's just going to be advancing over the years as we go. So you plan your shots before you roll, you rent what you need instead of buying what you think you should own, and you build your film around what you actually have. That is not a compromise. That is actually the same mindset that built some of the most important films that ever was made. Which brings me to the real answer, and I'm just going to be blunt with you guys. AI did not create this problem. We did. A culture that decided creativity was a button. That is what created this problem. I mean, everyone thinks they can make a movie now by just sitting behind a desk, clicking a few things, generating some clips, and call it filmmaking. And honestly, that's not art. And it's not just the filmmaking. It's also with music and with everything else. And because of that demand, the infrastructure that real filmmakers depend on just got redirected. We live in a fast food society now. Like, everybody wants it now. Nobody wants to put in the reps. Nobody wants to spend real time learning to light a scene or figure out why their edits do not feel right. They want the output without the process. And I think it's kind of funny to think about this, but that famous phrase that we used to hear on film sets, "Oh, we'll just fix it in post," has now changed to, "Oh, we'll just have AI fix it." But here's the thing about AI. It has no heart. It's literally a bot. It's not a real human. And I've said this all over my channel before, that AI isn't going to replace us. But, after watching what it's doing to our industry's infrastructure and how fast it's actually evolving, I'm not so sure about that answer anymore. I know some of you watching this are genuinely here to grow and learn this industry, and that literally matters the most. The filmmakers who build real careers through this are the ones who learned the craft before they leaned on the tools. Like, the ones who understand story well enough that when they hit record, it actually means something. And that is the only thing that has ever separated working filmmakers from people who just own cameras, which is why I say this all over my channel: story first, tool second. But here's the thing. Storage is just one piece of what the industry is getting wrong right now. Because while everyone is panicking about AI, storage costs, and data centers, there's another problem that's been quietly wrecking movies for years, and it's the reason audiences are turning on their subtitles just to watch a Marvel movie. And it's the reason Hollywood sound mixing has gotten so bad that big budget films sound worse than what they were 20 years ago. So watch this video next. I'll show you exactly what went wrong with movie audio and what you can do right now to make sure your films don't sound like the mess that's coming out of Hollywood.